So, with your permission, sir, may I start?
Yeah, yes, please.
A very good afternoon to one and all present, especially our speaker, Ma'am Sanjoli Chimni Pandey. Thank you for joining us, ma'am.
Pleasure's mine.
So before we actually start with this session, let me just give a brief account of what exactly Dairy Diaries is. Ma'am, this Dairy Diaries is a monthly series, national webinar series on contemporary concerns in higher education. And already we have conducted 3 sessions earlier, and many of the participants today have also attended those sessions earlier. The first session was by Dr. Divya Singhal, who talked about mental health of students. The second session was by Dr. Jayanti Datta, who talked about making students think. The third session dealt with AI in education, artificial intelligence, by Dr. Priya Ranjan. And today, after talking mostly about the students and about artificial intelligence in education, today we thought that it would be a nice issue if we talk about teachers, because teachers as the pillars of education, nobody talks about them. Everybody just insists that they should be doing this, and every workload is just kept on increasing on them, especially in higher education. So, but nobody realizes that teacher burnout is also an important concern in higher education. So that is why when Principal Sir and I were discussing about the next topic for the session, Dairy Diaries, so we had a choice, but I said no, we should be talking about teacher burnout first, and any other issue can come afterwards. And regarding your expertise, I will ask Sir to elaborate further, and then we can start with the session.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kamakshi, and welcome, ma'am, Sanjoli ma'am, for this session. इनके बारे में बहुत ब्रीफली मैं बताऊंगा, क्योंकि मैं चाहता हूं कि अधिक से अधिक समय जो है वो मैम हमारे साथ इंटरेक्शन में लगाएं। इन्होंने कॉरपोरेट वर्ल्ड में 18 साल काम किया है, बैंकिंग में, मीडिया में, फिनांस में। उसके बाद 2011 में शी फाउंडेड हार्ट एंड माइंड फाउंडेशन, और इसमें उन्होंने जो भी कंटेम्प्रेरी स्टडीज़ हैं, न्यूरो साइंस के, बायोलॉजी के, साइकोलॉजी के, ट्रॉमा स्टडीज़ के, उनके की इनसाइट्स लेते हुए कैसे हम इमोशनल वेलबींग इंश्योर करें, कैसे हम एक पॉजिटिव ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल कल्चर डेवलप करें, इसके लिए वो काम कर रही हैं, और काफ़ी वर्षों से, जैसा मैंने कहा, काम कर रही हैं। दुनिया भर की लगभग 3000 संस्थाओं के साथ करीब 40,000 लोगों की लाइफ को उन्होंने इम्पैक्ट किया है। और हमारे साथ एक विशेष कनेक्शन इसलिए भी है क्योंकि हिमाचल की जो बहुत प्रसिद्ध संस्कृति कर्मी रही हैं, इला पांडे मैम हम सबकी आइडियल रही हैं, जिनका हिमाचल में कथक लाने में जिनका कंट्रीब्यूशन, बहुत सारा कंट्रीब्यूशन है। मैम इनकी बहू भी हैं, तो आप हिमाचल की बहू भी हैं, तो आपका उस लिहाज से भी हम स्वागत करते हैं। और विषय का परिचय कामाक्षी जी ने दे दिया है कि कैसे टीचर्स का, करिकुलम का, कोर्सेज का, लाइफ का, और जो अनएक्सपेक्टेड चैलेंजेस रोज आ रही हैं तो उनका बर्डन बढ़ता जा रहा है। तो स्ट्रेस तो एक लिमिट है कि आप एक रेस में और दौड़ रहे हैं, बट बर्नआउट उसकी इंतहा है, जब आपको लगता है स्ट्रेस इज नॉट इवन वर्थ, रेस इज नॉट इवन वर्थ रनिंग। एक्चुअली वो जो सिचुएशन आ जाती है, तो उनमें से बहुत सारे लोग होपलेसनेस फील कर रहे हैं, हेल्पलेसनेस फील कर रहे हैं। तो स्ट्रेस और बर्नआउट के जो इश्यूज हैं, और जैसा कि हम कहते हैं कि हम वही पढ़ाते हैं जो कि हम हैं, तो यदि हम खुद स्ट्रेस्ड हैं तो हम बच्चों में भी कहीं ना कहीं यही कम्युनिकेट कर रहे हैं। हमारी ओवरऑल प्रोडक्टिविटी और हमारी ओवरऑल इफेक्टिवनेस जो है वो कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो रही है। तो इन्हीं सारे इश्यूज पे मैम आज चर्चा करेंगे। तो आपका स्वागत है मैम, प्लीज गो अहेड। और यूजुअली हम 4 से 5 रखते हैं, लेकिन मैंने मैम से डिस्कस किया है कि हमारे जो पार्टिसिपेंट हैं बहुत ही अकोमोडेटिव है, तो हम यदि 15-20 मिनट आज थोड़ा आगे भी जाएंगे, और आप देखेंगे कि मैम के साथ जब आपकी चर्चा होगी तो समय का बोध हमें नहीं रहेगा। तो इस चीज को ध्यान में रखते हुए आप मानसिक रूप से हम अपने सभी साथियों को तैयार रखते हैं, और हमारे बड़े उस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बड़े रिजिलियंट लोग आज हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं। तो ऐसा कोई इशू नहीं है मैम, प्लीज आई गेस another an hour or so for your interaction, and then 15-20 minutes for discussion. Thank you. It's all yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kamakshi, Dr. Sachin. I think it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to a very interactive kind of a session. I hope it's not just going to be one way. So, in fact, I just got out of a previous session where, for some reason, everyone's videos were muted, audios were muted, and I just didn't enjoy doing that workshop, honestly. So because it's always nice to have it interactive and to have some kind of a sense of how people are receiving it. So it's nice to see that some people have switched on their videos. So I'm going to encourage more and more people to switch on their videos, because it's always nice to have to be able to look at people. So yeah, and thank you for the introduction, and I think you've spoken very nice words. I hope I can live up to some of them. So all right. So do you have your permission to start sharing? I want to share a small little presentation that I've created, just to make sure that
Yes,
if there
please
are
go ahead.
people,
Please.
I'll just do that. 1 second. Okay, just give me a second. I will have to. So just tell me when you can see the screen. Can you see this?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's visible.
You're able to see? Okay,
ma'am.
great. All right. So we're going to talk about this topic, right? We're going to talk about burnout today, right? And
Ma'am, we can see your screen, but not that PowerPoint. It's
you can't see the PowerPoint?
not yet.
Oh, just 1 second. Let me try again, because I can see it. Give me a second. Let me try again. I'm not so sure why. Just give me a second. Let me try again. Okay, let me try again. Sure.
We can see your screen and burnout.
I know there's some problem. It's not allowing me to share. So for some reason, it's not allowing me to share just a window. Just 1 second. It's just allowing me to share my full screen, and then I can't seem to. So tell me what you can see now. Can you just see? You can't see the full slide on the full screen?
No, we can see your desktop open.
Yeah. I don't know why. For some reason, it's not allowing. It's just telling me to share the full window. Let me
Ma'am, maybe first you have to open the PowerPoint presentation, and then you'll be able to share.
Trust me, I know all about that. I work with organizations. It's all open. It's all open. I'm well aware of that. It's all open. I don't use Google Meet so much, but 1 second.
Okay.
Let me just see. Give me a second. No, that's not it. Why is this? So I'm choosing to share a window, and in the window, just 1 second. Just how about so when I try to share a window, it doesn't allow. For some reason, it's not allowing me to do that. I don't know. So
would you mind sharing the screen? In the sense, sharing the
entire screen, you mean?
Yeah.
Then you'll all. I can do that. Let me try doing that.
Yeah, and then you open your PPT.
The PPT is already open. Okay, let's try that. Let's try it. Give me a second. Because so now you can probably see yourselves, right? Now
yes.
Is that,
now
right?
It is there. Now we can see your screen.
Okay. Yes. But now I can't see anyone, so it's okay. I'll just you'll have to keep telling me what's on the chat. So
I'll do that.
I can't see that for some reason now.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
all
great.
right. So let's dive into it. So so we're going to talk about burnout, and Dr. Kamakshi, and you have so nicely I think introduced, and I think it's beautiful that organizations and institutions are saying that let's talk about this. Some of this is difficult to talk about, but it's so important to do that, because we don't just want to be good teachers, we want to come out on the other side healthier and happier also, right? And while we do know, and that burnout is a bit of a systemic issue, it is cultural, but there are so many things that we can do to really prevent it, to cope with it. And so let's just dive into it. If I have your permission, can I dive right in? Okay, great.
Please.
All right. And like I said in the first slide, we're going to talk about what we can influence, right? We can't influence everything, but let's try and see where we have some kind of control. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is really what burnout really is, how it affects educators. I'm going to share with you, there are so many different ways to look at anything, in fact, now. framework for understanding. And I think the reason I do is because it actually gives us touch points to intervene and influence positive change. That's really one of the core reasons. Of course, there are so many other reasons, but we're going to be looking at Dr. Christina Maslat's framework for understanding, why burnout happens, and then we're going to be talking about prevention and coping strategies, right? So really, hopefully, before the end of this workshop, each one of you can commit to positive change and identify at least one small thing, if not several others, which will really support you to be healthier and happier and prevent and cope from burnout, depending on where you are, right? Okay, so as we start, I'd like to do a quick check-in, we can use the chat box to share your responses. I want you to identify 2 words that capture your current energy at work. So currently, when you get up in the morning and you get to work, what are 2 words that very nicely capture how you feel, your current energy levels at work? Can you just take a minute to think about that and share your responses in the chat box? And just to help you, I've put a few words there, but you can ignore that and just find your own, or you can use this, whatever works for you.
Yes, keep writing. I'll read it out for
yes, because I can't see that.
Yes, I can. Yeah. I myself have written excited.
Okay, that's nice.
And I'm waiting for others to chip in.
Okay.
Ma'am, I will say committed.
Okay. And sometimes you can have more than one word. So you can have 2 very different words.
Actually, I think every day varies actually.
Maybe. So let's talk about today, how you're feeling.
Today, committed.
Committed. And sometimes you might just find, if you dig deeper, and peel the layers, that you might feel excited and yet you might feel overwhelmed. So they could be really 2 very different feelings also. So I want to encourage you to just
overwhelmed was the next word that came to my mind.
Okay.
And we have happy on some day, tired on others.
Right.
We have committed and certain days even tired. Yes, keep coming.
Yeah, and even if you're not sharing, I hope you're at least thinking for yourself.
Yes.
Just make sure that you're thinking about this, and you're getting into all these little things that we're doing, because it will just help you to take more away from the workshop.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So typically, now you can keep sharing that. I promise to take a look at that once I'm able to. But let's move on now, and I hope everyone's thought about it for themselves.
Right.
So, I want to dive. So, having done that, and we'll come back to that, I want to dive into what burnout really is. What are the things that really characterize burnout, and it's a very textbook kind of a definition, but it's really a syndrome that results from prolonged, unmanaged workplace stress or chronic stress. Acute stress is, you're going to work and you have to negotiate bad traffic on one day in a month. Chronic stress is every day there's bad traffic, right? So it's a syndrome that results from prolonged, unmanaged workplace stress characterized by 3 core dimensions, which are essential, which are very typical to burnout. One, you feel really depleted. So there's energy depletion or exhaustion, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical, or all 3 of them. There's an increased mental distance from one's job. So there's feelings of cynicism or detachment. These are very typical to burnout, right? And finally, there's reduced professional efficacy. So you feel less effective and not as able to perform as you did before, right? Key symptoms being feeling drained, becoming cynical or detached, and experiencing reduced effectiveness, which often leads to lower productivity. There's dissatisfaction. You look at everything in a very negative kind of a way, and feel very unfulfilled, right? By standard definition, when WHO coined the definition, they said it's strictly an occupational phenomena, right? So which means that it arises in work and workplace related settings. But now since then there's been a lot more research, and some researchers suggest that stress and exhaustion from non-work domains, whether it's you're in a caregiving role, there's some personal crisis, challenging situation at home, it can contribute or overlap. So basically, what they're saying is that relational and meaning factors also might contribute to burnout, right? I love this quote from Esther Perel, and she's done some great work around this. She says, burnout isn't just about too many tasks, it shows up as a disconnection. And this disconnection is not just from your students, your colleagues, but also from yourself, your own sense of meaning, right? So it just feels like you're going about everyday tasks in a robotic manner. Nothing is meaningful or important or valuable. There's no sense of purpose. And you just feel really detached and disconnected, right? Now, this is really the most important part of what I'm going to share with you today. So, Dr. Christina Maslach said that burnout arises from mismatch between people and their work in 6 core areas. And what are these 6 core areas? Let's look at them and see if you can, as I'm sharing this with you, I'd encourage you to reflect and think about your own life, right? And see, are there any mismatches that you're experiencing in any of these areas? So, the first one is workload. So basically, if there's too much to do, you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough time, you're rushed, and you don't have any support. So any mismatch in this area could be a potential contributor to burnout. The second one is control. So how much control do you have over how you work, what you do? And if there's limited autonomy and you literally have hardly any areas where you have some kind of authority or decision making power, whether it's the kind of methods that you're using, the scheduling that you're doing, the pace at which you're going for your curriculum, how much time you're allocating for different topics, the kind of assessment tools you're using, and so on. How much control do you have, right? And if there is if the perception is that you have literally no control, that could be quite a contributor. The third one, and so just think about that, as I'm sharing with you. The third one is reward. And this is, again, all of this is really about perceived reward, right? And rarely, most researchers say that rarely is this about financial, things like salaries and benefits. It could be a contributor, but more often than not, it's about, things like, emotional recognition. You did something good, but nobody noticed. The kind of feedback that you're getting, self-esteem, personal satisfaction, maybe just being celebrated in the community that you're a part of, people acknowledging what you're doing. And if there's, mismatches there in terms of what you're doing, and how you're getting a reward, even if it's just in terms of you feeling good about yourself based on just maybe a nice comment that a colleague made with you. It could be something as small as that. And typically they say burnout is not about large things. It's about consistent, small things that just accumulate over a period of time. Every day what you're encountering, right? The fourth one is community. Now, this is a really important one, I think. If the community where you're working, right, your work community, there's a complete disconnect. People don't talk to each other. The culture is really toxic. And what does that mean? Toxic culture means that people are impulsive and reactive. The quality of interpersonal relationships is not great. Trust is missing. People don't really trust each other. People don't really support each other or feel supported, connected. You don't feel valued. You don't feel respected. People don't have good conflict resolution skills. All of this can really, contribute to burnout, right? The fifth one is fairness, which is really about, perceived justice and equity. Now, if there is a sense, if you have a feeling that, someone's being favored, or there are biases in terms of the decisions that are taken, how recognition is given to some people, workload is allocated in a way that, it feels unfair to you, it's without, and there's no transparency, equity, or consistency, then that could definitely be, one of the factors, right? And as I'm talking about all of this, I think it's important to reiterate, this is not a one-off case. A one-off case is fine, it's not an issue. But if this is happening consistently every day, all the time, then it could lead to, this disconnect and this mismatch and things like that. And the final one, which is again, one of the most important, is values. Now, we all have certain values which are important to us, right? And then you go and work in a place. Now, if you're in your workplace, you're expected to do things which are completely contrary to your values, or at least the values that are really important and strong for you. They're misaligned with your personal beliefs or meaning. What you believe clashes with the institutional priorities or demands. That could be a potential area of mismatch and disconnect. So these are the 6 areas: workload, control, reward, community, fairness, and values. And a mismatch in any of these areas could be a potential cause of workout. And by the way, you don't have to have all six. It could just be one also. And that's what the latest research tells us. So let's take a look at an example, right? Imagine Dr. Mathur. She's a mid-career lecturer in a college in a tier 2 Indian city. She teaches 4 large classes, supervises student projects, serves on multiple committees, and is expected to publish all the while doing much of her own grading. We know that research is a really important part of the work that you do. So Dr. Mathur has little say over her teaching schedule. She loves teaching her subject, but increasingly feels that her work is being seen only as an output, number of papers, student numbers, and not the engagement with students. So she begins to feel tired and detached. Classes feel draining, and she just begins to feel like a robot, just going through the motions. She's no longer connecting with the students as she once did. And in her free time, she feels empty, as though, her identity is really being swallowed up by her work. There's no place for her, right? The human being has really been taken out of by the system. So as you can see in this situation, there are mismatches in all of these 6 areas, right? And before I proceed, I really wanted to put this out. We know from extensive research that burnout is not about personal weakness. It is rarely about personal weakness. It's really a very systemic thing. It arises from mismatches based on the culture around you, the environment, the other people, the leadership, the management, and many of these mismatches intensify for mid-career lecturers, right? Because you're expected to juggle so many things. You have to teach, you have to do research, you have to publish papers, you have to do administrative work, you have to do mentoring, you're supporting students, and with very little increase in actual support that you're getting to do all of this, right? So it's not about a personal weakness. So we shouldn't judge ourselves for it. But research in India shows that 1 in 3 faculty members are at risk of significant burnout, with many experiencing emotional exhaustion or mental distancing from their work. So this is really scary, actually, and especially for lecturers in the 5 to 20-year career stage. When you're teaching, you're mentoring, and your administrative demands peak, it makes it extremely important to build practices that sustain not just your effectiveness, but also your well-being, so that it can be sustainable for a long period of time through your career. So what I'd like us to do now is, I've been carrying on for too long, and I can't see any of you, so I'm just hearing my own voice. I'd like you to reflect, take a minute and share maybe a concrete moment, either this semester or the previous semester or anywhere through your career, where you felt one of these mismatches really strongly. So, and mismatch in workload, control, reward, community, fairness, or values, right? What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to share which area you experienced a mismatch in the chat box. And then maybe we can unmute some people and have a conversation and hear from some of you on when you experience that mismatch, how did it affect your energy, your motivation, and your sense of purpose? Any questions?
Yes. आप लोग चैट बॉक्स में भी इन 6 में से जो चीज
Wherever you're experiencing a mismatch, जहां पर आपको इन 6 एरियाज में आपने कभी भी अगर कोई मिसमैच,
हमारे पास कुछ रिस्पॉन्सेज आने लगे हैं मैम. बनीता जी कह रही हैं रिवार्ड एंड कंट्रोल.
ओके.
रिवार्ड एंड कंट्रोल. सुमन जी कह रही हैं वर्कलोड एंड रिवार्ड.
ओके.
अर्चना पटियाल कह रही हैं फेयरनेस.
So maybe
नीरू मैम कह रही हैं ऑलमोस्ट ऑल. नीरू मैम जो हमारी नियर बाय कॉलेज की प्रिंसिपल हैं, अब मैं और मैम एक ही बोट में सेल कर रहे हैं, तो ऑलमोस्ट ऑल तो नहीं, लेकिन हाँ 3 or 4 आई मीन वी आर इनटू लार्जली अ थैंकलेस पोजीशन. So administrative responsibilities, you can understand it well. So fairness, Neeru ma'am is saying almost all. Any other response, please?
So maybe would any of the people who have already shared like to unmute themselves and talk a little bit about how when you experience this, how did it influence your energy, your motivation, your sense of purpose? Let's just have a conversation, and I think there's a lot of confidentiality. We are having this conversation. It's not going outside of this area, as I can say. So I hope everyone feels safe to share whatever they feel safe to share.
जी, जिन लोगों ने चैट बॉक्स में कहा उनमें से कोई एक बात करना चाहे प्लीज अपने आप को अनम्यूट करें और बताएं।
नमस्कार सर।
जी मैम प्लीज।
सर मैंने थोड़ा लेट ज्वाइन किया बट टॉपिक ऐसा इंटरेस्टिंग है कि इसमें मैं भी जुड़ गई हूँ। जैसा मैम यहाँ कह रहे हैं कि हमारे कुछ एरियाज ऑफ बर्नआउट है, तो एज ए टीचर मैं 2 साल पहले पे जाऊंगी और जब मैं उस समय एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव वर्क भी कर रहे थे और टीचिंग भी कर रही थी, तो वर्कलोड तो मुझे उतना ही मिलेगा जितना एक टीचर को उस समय सब्जेक्ट कंप्लीट करने के लिए चाहिए। कम्युनिटी में हमें उस तरह से नहीं देखा जाता, हमें कंपेयर कर दिया जाता है कि आपके पास तो इतना सही है, इजी सब्जेक्ट है। एज पर सब्जेक्ट मेनी अ टाइम वी गेट नॉट दैट रिकॉग्निशन व्हाट एवर वी आर पुटिंग इन, और कंट्रोल तो अपना है नहीं क्योंकि टाइम टेबल तो हमारा हमारे उसी पूरी फैकल्टी के हिसाब से बन जाएगा। रिवॉर्ड्स में सिर्फ एक ही रिवॉर्ड रहता है कि जब हमारे बच्चे हमें रिकॉग्नाइज करते हैं और वो हमें अप्रिशिएट करते हैं हमारे एफर्ट्स के लिए, वही एक रिवॉर्ड है। फेयरनेस ऑल्दो हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट्स में ऐसा नहीं है कि फेयर नहीं है, जितना जिसके हिस्से में उतना मिलता है, और काम क्योंकि सीनियर थे तो थोड़ा ज्यादा मिल जाता था। वैल्यूज जो हमारी है उनसे कॉम्प्रोमाइज अगर आप स्ट्रांग है तो नहीं करते हैं, बट अगर कहीं ऐसा लगता है तो बहुत ज्यादा बर्नआउट होता है अगर किसी उस पॉइंट पे आपको कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना पड़े जो आप नहीं चाहते। मेनी अ टाइम टीचिंग में भी हम कॉम्प्रोमाइज लगते हैं कि अरे सिलेबस नहीं हुआ, पूरा नहीं दे पाए, तब भी अपने आप को फुलफिल नहीं कर पाते। तो इन सभी सिचुएशंस में मैंने अपने आप को देखा है दोनों तरह रख के, तो इसीलिए मैंने ऑलमोस्ट ऑल लिखा था।
Right. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
मेरा नाम नीरू ठाकुर। नीरू ठाकुर।
नीरू, आप so you know आपने एक स्पेसिफिक ओकेजन के बारे में भी बातचीत की थोड़ी सी, you know you refer to that. तो जब ऐसा कुछ होता है, so how does it impact your energy levels and how much you how well you can work in that moment? How does it impact?
एनर्जी लेवल्स में तो माइंड सेट है दैट आई हैव टू बी इन माय जॉब। अगर मेरे को 10 to 5 रुकना है तो देन आई एम देयर, और जब मैं जॉब पे हूँ तो मैं बाकी कुछ और नहीं करती, वो मेरी कमिटमेंट टू माई सेल्फ है। वो तो 100% ही रहेगा जब तक है। हाँ, जब चले जाते हैं उसके बाद अगर एफर्ट और डालना पड़ता है तो लगता है ज्यादा हो गया।
Yeah. And how does it impact your motivation?
मोटिवेशन तो सिर्फ मोटिवेशन है मैम, यहाँ पे बाहर से कहीं से कुछ नहीं होता।
Thanks for
It's only self-motivation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wonderful. I hope everyone has been able to do some little bit of reflection, around this, because I think it's just I think that one of the objectives of this workshop for me as I'm doing this is also to support you to strengthen self-awareness, to become more aware of what are these chronic stressors around you. And I think if you do this reflection well, you'll just become a little more aware, and then when you're more aware, then you can do something about it. Right? Okay. So, do I have your permission to move on, Sachin sir? Should we move on?
Please,
okay. Please. All right. So, like I said, we are not here to complain. We want to surface the real roots, and I don't think anyone's doing that. But I think it's also important to have these difficult conversations, in a manner that just allows us to be. We're not trying to jump into finding a solution or things like that. We're just trying to surface the real roots so we can see where change is possible. And I think that's one of the reasons I really love Dr. Christina Maslach's 6 core areas. So let's dive deeper into this. Yeah, let's look at what are prevention and coping strategies. I think it always begins with prevention as far as we are concerned, right? I'm going to share a couple of strategies with you, and I think by using them habitually, not only can you reduce the mismatch before burnout sets in, but just in case you're deep into it, you can actually, I think these strategies can help you to come out of it in some which way, right? It's really about building resilience. It's about reducing demand where possible, increasing or allocating resources where it's more important, aligning your values, strengthening support, and protecting rest, right? Protecting rest being the, I think this, the culture that we live in nowadays is hyper productive, right? So once in a while, it's a good idea, not once in a while, but every day it's a good idea to find pockets to rest also. So let's look at what we can do. So the first strategy that you have available to you, and this is a very big thing these days, everyone's talking about mindfulness, contemplative practices like meditation, journaling, yoga, tai chi. So there is a very strong neuroscience. We've got reasons backed by neuroscience into how these strategies can be extremely valuable. They just help you to reconnect with your values and your purpose, so they reduce the values mismatch. When you're mindful, it's easier for you to notice what these chronic stressors are, right? So you can strengthen stress management and emotional regulation. So mindfulness practices like meditation, etc., actually create the neural networks for emotional regulation. Every time you practice them, the chance that when you're in that difficult moment and actually getting really dysregulated, you can come back to those neural networks increases exponentially. You can't just do it suddenly, right? So mindfulness practices help you to reduce reactivity. They give you more choice and agency. And I think as a direct fallout of that, they support you to enhance better relationships, and have that sense of accomplishment from within. So mindfulness contemplative practices is one strategy. The second one is really cognitive reframing or constructive self-talk. So from the time we get up in the morning to when we sleep at night, we're constantly our brain is primed to make sense of what's going around us, right? So but we don't always have all the information. So what do? We make assumptions, and we make our own narratives. We create these own stories in our head, and sometimes these stories that we create can really get us down. So if you can reframe how you're explaining what's happening to yourself, it can sometimes be extremely valuable. But I want to be very clear that I don't sort of indicate that it means looking at everything through rose-colored spectacles. Not at all. On the contrary, I'm completely we are saying be careful of toxic positivity. That can be very, very damning, right? What we are talking about is, let me give you an example, and I think that will help. So let's say, instead of, maybe you're saying, oh, my lecture was really bad, and you're beating yourself up about it. Every lecture should be perfect. One way of reframing it is by saying, if my students leave with one clear insight, then this session was worthwhile. And when you reframe like that, it lowers pressure, it makes success feel more achievable, and it boosts satisfaction. Here's another example. You have all these administrative reports and things that you have to do. And so one narrative could be, I hate these reports. They're such a waste of time. Why do we need to do this? And instead of, you can reframe and say, well, submitting these reports shows accountability, which supports my value of integrity. So, people who are sitting up the line, they need to see, they need to have documentation, and by doing this, it shows that, it supports my value of being an integral person, right? And by doing this reframing, it helps you to align an institutional requirement with a personal principle. So it just sort of reduces inner conflict. So I'm not saying toxic positivity, but I'm also saying that there is scope for sort of challenging some of these stories that we tell ourselves. And sometimes reframing can really help us to go down that lane of burnout, right? The next one, which again really important, boundary setting. And when I say boundary setting and work-life balance and boundary setting especially, it's not just setting boundaries with others. I think more often than not, I find it's so important to set boundaries with yourself. It's okay. And when you do that, it just helps you to protect rest and recovery. It increases autonomy and control, and it regulates pace and intensity, preventing chronic overload. So you have to have these boundaries with yourself and with others. Let's take a look at an example, right? So Professor Arjun, well, typically, and these are all true stories from conversations we've had. He used to sit and do he used to sit and do some kind of office work every day, whether it was research work, checking, grading papers, whatever, every day. And what he did was, he said he blocks 2 evenings a week as no work zones. He stops checking his emails after 7 o'clock and schedules grading into fixed slots. And he spends that free time, he was actually learning to play the guitar. And he said it just brought him so much joy. It just brought so much meaning into his life. He's learning a new skill. It restored control over his time, prevents spillover fatigue, and recharges him through something personally meaningful. And so, whatever works for you, but it's so important to set boundaries, right? It's so important to allow yourself to have boundaries. In this hyper-productive culture, sometimes we feel like if you're not, even if you're sat for an hour and we haven't done something worthwhile, sometimes we feel terrible. I mean, I know where I'm coming from. I used to work in a hyper active American bank, Citibank, right? And this is way back when we were at the peak of its glory. And, I think our productivity levels that were expected from us, so if they were paying us 10, we were expected to do a multiple of 1,000. So you can just imagine, right? So, I mean, it was lovely. It was there was so much energy, but if you continued on that path, you burnt out. So it was so important to have boundaries. So, and I'm sure some of you have also experienced that for yourself, right? The next one is leveraging personal strengths and choosing meaningful tasks. What do I mean by that? Each one of us has certain strengths, and each one of us has, we have our own experiences, our upbringing, our backgrounds, our knowledge, attitude, skills. And for each one of us, there are some tasks that are more meaningful than others. So we can leverage our personal strengths and, choose tasks that are meaningful to us. It can be extremely valuable. It helps us to align our daily work with personal values and purpose. It gives us a sense of intrinsic reward. It builds community recognition through mentoring, collaboration. People notice, oh, this person is doing this little extra. It's something they're really good at, and so there's a whole host of benefits that you can derive from that. Let's take a look at an example. Professor Kavita enjoys explaining complex ideas clearly. Instead of only sending written notes, she records a 3-minute explainer for her students. It plays to her strengths in communication, it feels purposeful, and the clearer student understanding along with their appreciation boosts her intrinsic reward. I think this is a beautiful example of what I'm trying to share. Any questions at this point? I feel like I'm going really fast.
किन्हीं का कोई प्रश्न हो अब तक तो प्लीज पूछें.
Okay, since we don't have anything, I'm going to move on, right?
Yeah. So there are positive emojis, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. That helps. Okay, wonderful. चलिए फिर हम 5th point पे आते हैं, which is social peer support and mentoring. I think one of the most potent antidotes to burnout is the communities that we can build around ourselves. आपके आसपास जो लोग हैं, and having that social support, having that mentoring, that peer support, it just counters isolation. It builds a sense of belong. It just makes things more bearable, right? You support each other, you validate each other, you get some kind of social recognition from the people who matter to you, and it reduced perceived unfairness through shared perspective. What do I mean by that? Let's take a look at an example. So Dr. Nisha joins a monthly peer group of lecturers. They share teaching strategies, they celebrate successes, they share frustrations, they validate each other's struggles, and they explore solutions to common challenges. And by the way, I do know for a fact that, including at Punjab University, there are many such peer support groups. I don't know if you're aware, Dr. Sachin, but even in PU, a lot of people are doing this now.
Yes.
And for Dr. Nisha, she feels connected. Once she joined the group, she said, I felt more connected. She gets some peer recognition because, you're sharing what you're doing and your peers are validating that. And then, sometimes when you're seeing an unfairness and you talk to someone else about it, they sometimes help you to see it with a different perspective, which makes things feel a little better for you, right? Or on the other side, they could just help you to identify, how can you navigate this challenge that you're facing? So you identify, better ways of approaching and navigating hurdles. So I think that's a really important one. And the 6th one is self-care. Again, like I said, we are in the hyper-productive culture, right? Which has forgotten that all of us are human beings and we also need to rest and recharge. So I can't emphasize this enough. It's so important to get a good 8-hour sleep at night, to have some kind of a physical activity regimen, to take rest, to take breaks. It just helps you to recharge yourself. It reinforces, a sense of control. So, when you're not overwhelmed, you're not tired. As it is, you're overwhelmed with too much of work. And on top of that, you're tired because you didn't get enough sleep at night. So just being able to provide that for yourself, I think it just protects resilience. It prevents fatigue. It enhances intrinsic reward because you have more focus. And when you're more focused, you're likely to achieve more. So let's take a look at an example. Dr. Meera blocks 15 minutes between lectures for a short walk or stretching. So Dr. Meera actually shared with me in confidence that she's trying to do 10,000 steps a day. That gives her a great sense of energy and, it just makes her feel good. So she was doing this 15 minutes walking in between lectures, and she said it's so beautiful because I get most of my steps done during my work day. And when she does this, she says she notices she grades more efficiently, she engages better with students and feels work feeling accomplished rather than drained. So I think that's a beautiful example. The 7th one is, sometimes when for some of us who might already be in that, in a difficult stage in a deeper stage of burnout, I think it's not a bad idea to seek help. And the help doesn't necessarily have to be counseling or therapy. It could be a coach. It could be a friend, someone you look up to and you respect, right? Who'll just listen to you. someone, so, and I think one of the advantages of doing this is that it offers you some kind of emotional support. Just someone sitting and listening to you can be so cathartic and valuable. And then if you're talking to a professional, they might suggest practical strategies for managing your stress. It helps you to reconnect with yourself. It strengthens resilience and adaptive coping, and you just feel like you're getting a better sense of control. So talking to a professional is also not a bad idea. Let's take a look at an example. Dr. Nisha, feeling overwhelmed by grading and departmental demands, consults a coach. You have life coaches, and you have some great people out there. She learns strategies to prioritize tasks and manage stress. She regains clarity on what matters most in her teaching, and from there onwards, she's able to handle her workload with more calm and focus. A coach can actually support you to reframe in a better manner, also in a healthier manner, also. So that's another thing that could be a positive fallout of this. So that's another option that you have. And finally, my favorite, develop and strengthen your emotional intelligence. I think doing this can be so valuable in preventing and coping with burnout, right? So what does this mean? So I'm going to share with you all the skills of emotional intelligence, and in a nutshell, try and explain it in a very short time. As you develop and strengthen your emotional intelligence, it means that you're increasing self-awareness. So when you increase self-awareness, you're able to spot stressors and triggers early on. You're able to spot any values misalignments or any mismatches in all those 6 areas a little earlier. Yeah. So, you're reflecting, you're evaluating. So increasing self-awareness is extremely valuable. Strengthening our emotional intelligence also calls for strengthening self-management skills. And self-management means you increase and improve your ability to regulate your emotions and to sustain motivation under pressure or challenges. Just like, the lady, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name. She shared, that, okay, as long as I'm at work, काम पे हो तो चाहे वो stress है कुछ है, but you're going through the motions and you're doing everything. वो घर जाके then you might collapse or whatever it is, right? So that's one advantage of strengthening your emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence also involves building social awareness, and I think that can contribute in such a wholesome way to the community that you're building around you. And अगर हर आदमी इसको करता है, you recognize fairness concerns, you recognize community dynamics, you make it a point to be more thoughtful and deliberate as opposed to being impulsive and reactive. I think it just all comes together to create a much better culture and climate for everyone. Emotional intelligence also involves enhancing your relationship skills. And as everyone does that, it can help you to foster collaborative, supportive environments that buffer beautifully against burnout. It also involves responsible decision making. And I think that's crucial when you're trying to align your choices with your personal values and long-term well-being. So that's really, the 5 skills of emotional intelligence. I want to give you an example of what that might look like. So let's see. Professor Raj identifies that last-minute lecture prep is a major stressor. So that's self-awareness. He's identified कि जब मैं अपने lessons को पहले plan नहीं करता हूँ और last minute करता हूँ तो मुझे बहुत stress होता है. So what does he do? He sets up a structured prep schedule and sticks to it. So that is self-management. Then, while he's delivering his lessons, he notices that some students, they're really struggling with deadlines. They're not able to hand over their projects or whatever it is on time. And he's willing to be empathetic at that point of time. So he uses empathy and social awareness. He adjusts the timelines and communicates clearly. So he gives people a chance. And by aligning his teaching approach with his values of fairness and student success, which is responsible decision making, he maintains motivation and avoids exhaustion. So I think that's a really nice example of how someone has used all the skills of emotional intelligence to really navigate, very stressful situations. And if these situations are chronic, then this can be extremely valuable in navigating them, right? So before I move on, any questions anyone has around this?
Lot many positive emotional expressions of agreement so far.
Okay, great. So then we'll move on and we can handle any questions we come to later then.
Okay.
All right. Now, what do we do? There are some issues which are systemic, which you don't have control over. So do we have any choices there? For example, and I'm going to share with you now, there are some things over which you don't have control. It's really the system. But, turns out even there you have some choices. Let's take a look, right? So let's look at something like fairness. Okay. Now, fairness depends on institutional culture, the procedures, who the leaders are, how transparent they are, policies, and things like that. And individual influence is quite limited. But even there, what can you do? You can document inequities. You can advocate for things that are important to you, right? You can raise concerns. You can use peer collective voice. You can seek clarity on criteria. You can ask questions. You can maintain integrity. You can set expectations when you're entering a role, the conversation that you have, to whatever degree you can or cannot, right? You can communicate what seems fair and propose fairer ways. So, there's always something that you can do. And what you do may not directly lead to a result immediately. It may not even lead to a result in the long term. But, just being able to do something, and whatever it is within your control can be extremely effective at preventing burnout. You're at least advocating for it. You're talking about what's important to you, and then you're letting you're letting go of trying to control what happens, and that's also important. Look at control. Now again, autonomy is constrained by organizational structures, policies, culture, teaching load, departmental requirements, right? And so very often you might find कि आपको वो काम करना है जो आपका है भी नहीं, लेकिन और कोई नहीं है तो आपको करना है. अब इसमें भी within constraints, you can find small domains that you have control over. Autonomy is really important to nurture intrinsic motivation. So, for example, your choice of teaching methods, the order in which you're teaching the curriculum, the time allocation, that's something that you always have control over. The timetable you don't have, but within that timetable, how you're allocating time to different topics and things is something you have control over. And then you can negotiate. You can ask for opportunities to make decisions. We all fall into this learned helplessness sometimes, right? And that really gets us down. So it's important to ask, right? To manage your own mindset about what aspects. Sometimes, we don't even try, and we decide, "Arey, iska to kuch nahi ho sakta." And we talk to each other. We all do it, right? And then you might find this one new person who comes in. Like, I'll give you an example. We went to do a workshop in an institution where the teachers had uniforms. And I remember, the teachers have uniforms, and the day we went, it was Teachers Day or something. We did a five-day workshop with them. It was a residential school. And, at the end, somewhere in between, one of the teachers raised and said, it feels really uncomfortable to be wearing uniforms. It's not nice, and I wish we didn't have to do this. And so one day during the lunch break, I started talking to the principal, and one of the directors was also there. So I just mentioned, I said, "I believe you have this uniform, and how did this happen and all that?" And then I sort of shared. I said, "Seems like people are not too happy with it." And so the director who was there, he says, "Yeah, but we don't need to have it. It happened in the past. We can call it off." And it was so funny. Before we ended that, when we ended that workshop on the last day, the principal came and announced that, okay, from next month onwards, we're not going to have any uniform. So nobody had even tried. So it's funny, sometimes. Another place that we went to, I remember, it's really funny. What they had was, they used to lock the bathrooms, the washrooms were locked during class time, because they said children unnecessarily get out of the class wanting to go and all. And, for some kids, that was really difficult. They said, sometimes we have to go. So there was panic and fear around that. And then that was brought to the attention of the authorities, and they said, "Oh, this happened during a certain time, something had happened, but that's long in the past, we have control." And so, they stopped locking the washroom, but nobody had asked. It had perpetuated for 30, 40 years. So funny how sometimes, we just decide, "Oh, arey, iska kuch nahi ho sakta." But if you ask, you never know. Sometimes things might change. In terms of reward, again, monetary pay or institutional recognition is often set externally. So you don't really have too much control over that. But, like I said, the research shows that it's not the monetary or institutional or financial recognition which is as important as the actual recognition for the work that you're doing on a daily basis, right? So whether, like someone just said, student feedback, peer appreciation, seeing the impact of the work that you're doing, celebrate small wins, document your successes, share them, build reputation, find outlets that acknowledge your contribution. And there are so many options over there, especially nowadays in the world that we're living in. So those are some things that you can do. When it comes to workload, again, workload is defined by the institutional expectations, policy, but there are some things you can do. Within that workload, you can prioritize. You can delegate or collaborate. You can say no where possible. I don't know, wherever that is possible. You can break tasks. You can optimize efficiency. You can ensure that you take breaks. You have time for recovery and rest. someone asks you to do a task in 1 hour and you've actually done it and you've seen that it takes 1.5 hours, you can communicate realistic expectations and limits, and be assertive about that, right? You can use reframing to reduce perceived burden when possible. So depending on which one of those is applicable, and sometimes it may not be, sometimes you can't say no, you just have to do it. But wherever you can, I think these are options that are available to you, right? I think another thing that you can do is you can combine coping strategies to address multiple mismatches at once. So, what does that mean? Let's take a look. So, for example, peer support groups help with community reward and sometimes fairness if fellow members share tips for dealing with unfairness. And peer support groups can also increase values alignment and belonging. So, let's take a look at what that might look like. So, a group of lecturers meets monthly to share challenges. One feels overlooked at work. So, that's a fairness mismatch. Another suggests a strategy that worked for them, offering both practical help and recognition. So that's, the mismatch of reward being corrected. The group's support fosters community and conversations about why they chose teaching. This renews shared purpose, strengthening values alignment and belonging. So that's a beautiful example of how you can, combine different strategies to address multiple mismatches. What I'd really like to do now is, so let me quickly share this one next slide, and then I want you to do a little quick reflection exercise before we close. So really, this is a 4-step process. First step is identify which mismatches feel strongest for you right now. Which of these areas, workload, control, reward, community, fairness, values, in which of these areas are you experiencing strong mismatches? First, identify. Step 2 is choose coping strategies that map well to the mismatches that you can influence. So choose a coping strategy that will help you to reduce this disconnection and mismatch. And step 3, it's important to recognize, some mismatches are less under your control, fairness, institutional reward, etc. And for them, you have to consider advocacy, collective action, communication, or you have to find workaround and mindset shifts to reduce the harm. And step 4, combine strategies, internal ones, what you do, and external ones, what you can negotiate or ask for to get the best reduction in mismatch. So identify the mismatch, choose the coping strategies, let go of the ones that are completely not under your control. For them, you can consider, options which may not lead to immediate result, but for which at least you'll feel empowered. And finally, combine strategies to get the best reduction in mismatch. So let's do a quick reflection now. What I'd like you to do is, I've shared these 8 prevention and coping strategies with you, right? So they're all there on the screen in front of you. I'd like you to identify which one of these are you most likely to use to protect your energy this coming week. So, think of the mismatches that you're experiencing and then identify at least one of these strategies that you're committed to leaning more into to really protect your energy this week. And just reflect on that and then maybe share some responses in the chat box. And if someone's willing to unmute and come on, that'll be great also.
यस तो मुझे लगता है कि मैम ने जो टास्क अभी रिफ्लेक्शन का दिया है वो क्लियर है.
हाँ जी.
किन्हीं को इस टास्क में कोई क्लैरिफिकेशन चाहिए तो वो पूछ सकते हैं.
हाँ जी प्लीज. तो बेसिकली आपने ये सोचना है कि आप कौन से एरिया में मिसमैच एक्सपीरियंस कर रहे हैं, वर्कलोड, रिवॉर्ड, फेयरनेस, कम्युनिटी, और उस एरिया में मिसमैच को रिड्यूस करने के लिए ये जो 8 स्ट्रेटजी स्क्रीन पे हैं, इनमें से कौन सी आपको सबसे रेलेवेंट लग रही है और जिसको आप कमिट करते हैं कि हाँ हम इसको थोड़ा ज़्यादा यूज करेंगे. आई नीड टू लीन इनटू दिस स्ट्रेटजी.
मेरे ख्याल से कोई अनम्यूट करके शेयर करना चाहता है तो
यस दैट वुड बी नाइस आल्सो.
हेलो.
यस
प्लीज.
Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, my name is Suman and I'm from the same college, Bazir Ram Singh Government College, Delhi. So when I was going to all these strategies, actually, the 3 and 4, I find out that I was already practicing for last 1 year, which helped me a lot to get out of this stress at the workplace. One of them was mindfulness, cognitive reframing, that is constructive self-talk.
Okay.
And coaching, and I can say self-care. These four help me a lot. But in others, na, I'm still find somewhere I find myself stuck actually. Like
Okay.
social, the fifth point is
Right.
there. So I can work. I choose to work on these 3 points actually. The first is the boundary setting.
Okay.
But boundary setting में what is the problem actually that I want to share with you,
Yes.
that sometimes na that we feel very overwhelmed actually, that exhausted at a point, and I want to take rest, that but during that rest ना I feel कि फिर वो दिमाग में थोड़ा थोड़ा घूमता है that ये काम रह गया, अगर अभी रेस्ट करूंगी फिर पेंडिंग होगा, तो वो गिल्ट फैक्टर एक आ जाता है यहाँ पे actually when I set boundaries about myself, but
So,
still it's better.
Suman, you just said that you are also using cognitive reframing and constructive self-talk, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is a good opportunity for you to use. जब आपके mind में वो guilt आता है ना, that's a good opportunity for
Yeah, I
constructive
use it,
self-talk.
but I have not mastered it 100%. Actually, 70% I can say that I mastered it. I'm working on it as well. Self-talk, mindfulness, self-care, and the coaching that I'm doing to the good level, I can say. But setting boundaries, na guilt, abhi bhi wo aata hai. Then I justify using that constructive self-talk, as you said.
Right.
So I'm also working on that, and as you asked that for this week, what you will choose to this. So I'm choosing three, that is boundary setting, and then choosing meaningful tasks, and the eighth one, that is the emotional intelligence.
Wonderful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Suman. And I think so well spoken. I think, and I love this conversation because I think when you have the courage to be vulnerable, then you're going to move forward for sure. So I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
I was reflecting during the discussion ना, that which point I am still lacking actually. जहाँ पे मुझे अभी भी काम करने की जरूरत है, तो I find out these 3 points actually जहाँ पे मुझे अभी भी शायद continuous efforts की जरूरत है अभी भी.
And like I said, boundary setting is more with ourselves, and we are living in a hyper productive culture, right?
Yeah.
Which basically wants to ignore the fact that we are human. At the end of the day, it treats people like machines, right? And on top of that, you have AI coming in, which can function, at top level for continued periods of time. But I think we must recognize, and we must always remember that we are human at the end of the day, and we do, if we want to be our best selves, then we have to protect rest. We have to learn to take care of ourselves, right? And then we come back.
Personally, I felt that it is not about the others. That others they're treating us like machines. Sometimes हम खुद को ना machine समझ लेते हैं.
Exactly.
ये भी करना and everything we want to do, and हम खुद अपने आप को machine समझना start करते हैं, and then that is the problem actually.
So this week you're going to give yourself permission to rest.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
और कोई प्लीज, और कोई अनम्यूट करके अपनी बात कहना चाहें.
So even if you don't share, but I hope you have sort of, I hope everyone just found something, because वर्कशॉप का से कुछ तो आप लेके जाइए. हम आपने अपना 1 घंटा इस वर्कशॉप को दिया है, तो यहाँ से कुछ तो लेके जाइए. That would be.
नीरू मैम ने चैट बॉक्स में लिखा है.
हाँ जी.
3, 4, 5 पॉइंट नंबर 3, 4 and 5.
Okay, she wants to do that.
3 areas she would be working.
Wonderful. I think I love it that people are using, identifying 2-3 areas. And I think make a note. जो भी आप identify कर रहे हैं, make a note somewhere. Put it on a piece of paper, stick it on your bathroom mirror, or put it in your wallet. Nowadays, I don't think people really use wallets, but whatever. Put it somewhere where you can see it every day, and I think that would be great in reminding you. All right. So since we are.
I just want to tell something in the end, because I speak a lot, then I wanted some other people to speak, because whatever these strategies are given here to cope up with whatever stresses or whatever limitations we have, I feel sometimes we struggle with each one of them. We do a little bit and we are not able to do everything in full. And probably, if I must say, somebody should not get offended, but it becomes difficult, especially for the women, to kind of, to meet each and every target out of them, like setting boundaries. It's sometimes not in our control. Then sometimes sleep, care, not in our control. Many other things. It could be like even men might be feeling it sometimes because in some extraordinary conditions, that I agree. But then usually we do kind of lack here. But what I wanted to tell here, because Sachin sir is also there, that you really gave a very good concept, that is the peer support group.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether this group like Delhi College is doing a good series of it. So if we can, like with sir's support, we can come up with this peer group. But mostly I find it's very difficult for people to kind of, support each other sometimes, because more of us are competitive rather than supportive. So if that's my suggestion to sir, yes, that was really a brilliant thing. And maybe many of us, when we'll speak to people like who can encourage us, so many burnouts they'll be cleared. Yeah, thank you, ma'am, thank you for such a good talk.
Very well said. I think I couldn't have put it better myself. I think so. That little whatever you shared was full of honesty, and I think it was full of hope also. So now the rest is on Sachin sir.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, as an administrator, it gave me an idea that actually I do encourage my colleagues to share things with me, among themselves.
Yeah.
But it's good idea to formalize it in a more structured manner.
Yes.
Where there is an allocated time once in a month or an alternate weekend or something like that, where people come, sit together and share their concerns.
Yeah.
But another point which came out of what Banita ji just shared is the fact that people tend to sit and talk with people with whom they have a frequency match.
Yes.
So again, otherwise forcing people to come and sit together also may become counterproductive.
True.
So it's always a good idea it's not just a good idea. It's a good human. It's an obvious human tendency to sit and chat with people with whom you are comfortable and people who do not judge you for what you're going to say. यहाँ भी जो लोग अपनी बात कह रहे हैं वो इसलिए कह पा रहे हैं, उनको पता है कि यहाँ पर इट्स रिलेटिवली ओपन स्पेस, हम कोई जो वल्नरेबिलिटीज हैं उसको एक्सप्लॉइट नहीं करने वाले हैं, मैनिपुलेट नहीं करने वाले हैं. तो जिस तरह का यहाँ एक ग्रुप हम वर्चुअल प्लेटफॉर्म पे बना पा रहे हैं, तो आइडिया ये मुझे भी लग रहा था कि क्यों ना हम इसको थोड़ा स्ट्रक्चर्ड कर दें. कोई जरूरी नहीं कि लोग पूरा कॉलेज सारे एक जगह बैठे. 3 लोग जो आपस में कंफर्टेबल फील करते हैं वो बैठे, और 4 लोग एक जगह बैठे, 5 लोग एक जगह बैठे. अभी इनफॉर्मली हो ही रहा है इन द कैंटीन, इन द स्टाफ रूम, ये ऑलरेडी हो ही रहा है, बट वो बहुत चिट चैट मोड में, लाइटली मोड में हो रहा है. तो लेट अस प्लान एन आवर इन अ मंथ where actually there is some kind of a semi-structured discussion leading to actionable points.
Beautiful, yeah.
Which they can follow in the next meeting. Say कि भाई पिछली मीटिंग में हमने fairness, कॉलेज में fairness के issues हैं या control के issues हैं, वहाँ ये चीज़ है, let us work on it. और आपने ये बनीता जी की बात को, मैं उनके एक बात में एक सवाल भी था कि जैसे उन्होंने कहा कि भाई 6 के 6 एरियाज में लगता है कि चीजें कई बार हमारे कंट्रोल में नहीं है. तो संजोली मैम ने ऑलरेडी क्लेरिफाई किया है कि उनमें से कुछ चीजें हमारे कंट्रोल में हैं, कुछ नहीं है. तो जो कंट्रोल में है उसके लिए कलेक्टिव एक्शन क्या हो सकता है, और जो अपने हाथ में, जिसको हम सर्कल ऑफ इन्फ्लुएंस एंड सर्कल ऑफ कंट्रोल की बात करते हैं, कंसर्न की बात करते हैं, तो सर्कल ऑफ कंसर्न तो हमेशा ही बड़ा होगा, बट सर्कल ऑफ कंट्रोल, सर्कल ऑफ इन्फ्लुएंस लिमिटेड होगा. और कई बार मैंने अपनी पर्सनल लाइफ में भी और प्रोफेशनल लाइफ में देखा है, पीपल do not do things which they can do on the pretext of things which they cannot do. उनको लगता है अब ये नहीं हो सकता, तो जो वो हो सकता है वो भी नहीं कर रहे हैं. तो वो एक गलत एक्सक्यूज है. और मुझे लगता है कि इस मैम की बात में जो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज थी कि उन्होंने ये बिल्कुल ही आइडियलिस्टिक प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं लिया कि वी कैन डू एवरीथिंग,
Absolutely.
to be done. उन्होंने हाईलाइट ही वही चीजें की है जो हमारे कंट्रोल में है, which makes entire session really meaningful and useful. Ma'am, there are a lot many congratulatory messages in the chat box.
Thank you. No, I think I love what you just said, Dr. Sachin, and I just want to add to that. I think so. Firstly, I know that Dr. Jayanti Datta at PU, she's doing some things around colleagueship. So if you want to check with her, I think that might be a great idea, because I know she's doing some great things there.
Yes, I've been part of some of these groups.
Have you been? Okay.
Yeah.
The second thing that I want to share is, don't be worried about getting it perfect. Just start. it's amazing how things build up. And don't worry if it gets messy. Let it get messy.
Right.
Let it lead to conflict. Let everything happen. But and through that you will find something great.
Right.
You know, I think the thing is that we want to get it perfect at one go, and it's never going to be like that. You have two people, put them together, you'll never get it perfect, right?
Right.
Even a mother and a child. So I think it's all right. Let it be messy, as long as everyone is committed to honing their own skills, communicating better, being better. I think that's what matters. I think it's just about creating a safe space for people to share. And sometimes in any conversation, maybe there is zero outcome, but
Right.
maybe the only outcome is that people feel like they've been listened to, and that's good enough. That's really good enough sometimes.
I mean, they're venting out, so at least that.
So I would say, honestly, I would not encourage venting. I mean, it shouldn't be a forum for venting, because
Yes.
then it can go downhill very quickly. It cannot be a forum for venting. It can be a forum for having constructive conversation. But if you find that people are just coming over there and venting and then taking it out, think that may be a very unhealthy exercise. But it's a good idea to just have a little more constructive conversation, and sometimes just feeling heard through that. That okay, I had a good idea, somebody heard it, and it's perfectly fine. And in my experience, some of the best things that I've built started out really messy. There was conflict.
I mean, when we talked about giving yourself psychological permissions, one of the
Yes.
permissions that we need to give ourselves is it's all right, as you said, to
Yes.
start in a raw,
And to
uncooked kind of-
falter, to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's how you'll grow from there. And maybe it just brings up something beautiful. You never know. It just might, you all sitting where you are, you might just create something which is then such a beautiful thing that people across the country can mirror. You just don't know.
Yeah,
And
I mean, just to illustrate, last year we started a life skills curriculum, which was pretty
Okay.
messy to begin with.
Right.
And then over a period of time, we could, kind of structure it and all.
Beautiful.
And now we are at a verge at which it's likely to be scaled up in all the colleges of Himachal Pradesh.
Imagine that. So imagine, what a great example.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So that's how it happens, right? All of these things happen. It's just about starting, and then being committed to navigate things as they come along, and I think that's what's important. So so I think it sounds good. So I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the lady who shared, but sounds like things are going to happen.
Yes, I think if you don't have any slides, you can.
Yeah, I'm just going to.
So that you can go through the chat box.
Let's do that. I've got one or
Because
two
there are
slides.
lot many positive messages.
I will
pouring
see that.
in.
I'm going to do that. I just have one or two slides. Let me just
Please go ahead.
Let me do
Ma'am.
that.
Please go ahead.
So again, I just want to reiterate again and again that burnout is not a personal failure. It's a systemic thing. It's cultural. It's societal. It's not a personal failure, right? It's just a signal that something important needs attention, and you have the ability to respond. That's the most important thing,
Yes.
right? I just want to tell you a little bit. At Mind and Heart, we started this in 2011, in fact, in July, and we are committed. We had two goals. We said we want to support individuals and organizations to achieve their goals, but we want them to achieve their goals while also being mindful of nurturing healthy and happy communities around them. It cannot be at the cost of people. I've been a part of some very aggressive corporate culture, and I know how toxic that can be. So really, it was about helping people to achieve their goals while also contributing to nurturing healthier and happy communities. Emotional intelligence lies at the heart of our practice. It's not the only thing. We do a lot of other modalities, but that's really, the foundation of our practice. We've reached out to, like you already shared, and I'd love to stay connected with people who are here. We have a page on Instagram. So for those of you who you're curious, you want to learn more about emotional intelligence, you can go and find us there. Why I'm sharing my LinkedIn profile? Because on LinkedIn, we have a group called the Emotional Intelligence Network. We have over 5.5 lakh people who are a part of that. Some of the world's most renowned experts on emotional intelligence and neuroscience are part of that group. And, every time they bring out a new research paper, they'll post over there first. So it's a really incredible, thriving, active community. So for those of you who'd like to really work on strengthening your EQ, you might enjoy being there. I'd love to stay connected. And I come to my last slide, which is thank you for your time and attention. And now I'm going to stop sharing so I can see some of that. Oops. Have I stopped sharing now, or is my
Yes.
screen?
No. You have stopped.
Okay, great. Suddenly I feel like I've come back into humanity.
I can imagine. Otherwise, you feel like talking to a wall.
Well, it's okay. Yeah, you just wonder what's happening on the
Yeah.
other side. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so Dr. Neha is sharing that I'm feeling motivated. I think you have to. I'm glad that I was able to provide some amount of external motivation. I hope you can convert it into internal motivation now. Yeah.
Right.
Because these sessions, when you have them, they can be great, and they raise your energy levels. But if you want to sustain it, you just have to sort of take it inside and be a little more committed. Thank you so much, Banita. And I love that. Archana saying we don't need to be perfect all the time. I think that really is it. I think we can't forget that we are human beings and we are messy and we are going to make mistakes and all of that. It's all right. I mean, as long as you're not committed to making mistakes all the time, right? You learn from them and you move on. I mean, this is not an excuse for that. Okay. Thanks a lot. Yeah. So Dr. Kamakshi is being a good, she's got her things. Very nice. I'd love to see some of that feedback also. All right. Any questions from anyone or anything? I'm happy to take another 2-3 minutes and, then we can wind up.
आपके मन में कोई प्रश्न है तो जरूर पूछें.
Okay, I think that sounds like we've answered all the questions, but if any other questions come up at any point of time, I'm sure Sachin sir will be able to answer them for you now.
Yes, ma'am. But the best idea that we had today was of a peer support group, I suppose.
Yeah.
बिकॉज बाकी जो भी कोपिंग स्ट्रैटेजीज आपने बताई आई थिंक सारे ही टीचर्स थोड़ी थोड़ी हद तक सब फॉलो करते हैं, जैसे सुमन मैम ने कहा या नीरू मैम ने कहा, सभी लोग कुछ कुछ फॉलो करते हैं अपनी अपनी एक्सटेंट तक जितनी उनकी लिमिटेशंस हैं. लेकिन ये जो पीयर सपोर्ट ग्रुप वाला आइडिया है और सीकिंग हेल्प, कोचिंग एंड काउंसलिंग, मेंटल हेल्थ सपोर्ट की जहां तक बात है, शायद ये चीज हम लोग नहीं कर पाते बिकॉज अपने बर्नआउट के बारे में, अपने स्ट्रेस के बारे में बात करना शायद ज्यादा लोगों को कंफर्टेबल नहीं लगता है. तो एक इनिशिएटिव जो और हम स्टार्ट करना चाह रहे थे विद द परमिशन ऑफ सचिन सर, जो हम कर रहे थे कि हम स्टूडेंट्स के लिए एक मेंटल हेल्थ सपोर्ट का एक सुनो केंद्र सॉर्ट ऑफ इनिशिएटिव स्टार्ट कर रहे थे, एक्टिव लिसनिंग का, और उसमें हम लोग साइकोलॉजिकल डॉक्टर्स और उनको भी इन्वॉल्व करना चाह रहे हैं, इसीलिए थोड़ा सा लेट हो रहा है, अदरवाइज वी वुड हैव स्टार्टेड अर्लियर आल्सो. तो वैसे ही सपोर्ट सिस्टम मुझे लगता है एक टीचर्स के लिए एक सपोर्ट ग्रुप भी बनना चाहिए जहाँ पे टीचर्स के लिए ऐसी कोचिंग और काउंसलिंग जो है वो पॉसिबल है. और जैसे कि आपने कहा कि जयंती मैम पीयू में ऐसे कुछ ग्रुप्स के बारे में ऑलरेडी काम करते हैं, एंड मे बी यू आर ऑल्सो पार्ट ऑफ देम, या सर इज अ पार्ट ऑफ देम. सो वी कैन स्टार्ट इट ओवर इन हिमाचल ऑल्सो, एज बनीता मैम इज ऑल्सो सेइंग, बिकॉज शी इज ऑल्सो द लीडर ऑफ आवर HGCTA, so she knows better how many people and how many teachers are facing such kind of issues. लेकिन yes, nobody wants to open up about them. So एक peer support group आपस में हो, अपने कॉलेज में हो, फ्रेंड्स में हो, बहुत बढ़िया है. लेकिन उसके अलावा अगर किसी को कोचिंग की जरूरत है या मेंटल हेल्थ सपोर्ट की जरूरत है तो वो भी एक अपॉर्चुनिटी होनी चाहिए हमारे पास.
So I just want to at this point share with you that my organization, the Mind and Heart Foundation, we have a lot of coaches. So we do so one of the core work that we do is coaching. So if you ever need some group coaching or something, I'm happy to come in and jump in and support that.
या मैम, आपकी सपोर्ट तो हमें ऑलरेडी मिल ही गई है, और हमें शुरू में लगा था कि शायद आप नहीं आना चाहेंगे या कुछ, मे बी बिकॉज वी लिसन टू यू इन रिफ्रेशर इन पीयू and we just contacted you from there. So thank you so much कि आप आए, and we had a wonderful session today.
Well, pleasure is all mine, Kamakshi. So this is a testament to the fact that sometimes if you ask, you get, no? Sometimes we just don't ask.
Yes.
Very true, very true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for asking.
Thank you.
So अगर सभी किसी और का कोई क्वेश्चन ना हो, कोई क्वेरी ना हो, तो we can close then. एंड फीडबैक लिंक शेयर हो गया है ऑलरेडी, सो सभी से रिक्वेस्ट है कि उसको जरूर फिल करें सर्टिफिकेट की जरूरत ना भी हो तो भी फिल करें, एटलीस्ट वी कैन जस्ट पॉन्डर अगेन कि हमने सेशन से क्या सीखा है, या आपके 3 मेजर या 4 मेजर टेक अवेज क्या है सेशन से. इस रिफ्लेक्शन की एक एक्सरसाइज हो जाती है, एंड वी कैन शेयर दैट विद मैम टू इफ मैम विशेस.
I'd love that. Thank you so much. I think it's time for me to go, and you probably need to have another conversation amongst all of you.
Sure.
So I'll take your leave. Thank you so much for inviting me. And
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all for